All right, good evening. I seen you back there, Mike.
Hey, look, you throw some music on, man. This is what's gonna happen, man. People happen in Dallas. You play that music, man.
Come on, man. All right, good evening, everybody. You know what I'm saying? Back here with the political dream team, Mike Davis from South Seattle. Emerald, how are you, brother?
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm good. And Julia, Jessie, Converge Media. What's up, Jules?
What's up? Hey guys.
Yeah, it's been a minute, man, and
No.
I know everybody's been busy trying to be in their bag, but I hope you got a whole lot of opinion in that bag because we got some things to talk about tonight, right?
I came with the bag, honey.
All right, and so some people might have saw this interview that Jake Tapper just did with President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. So you know what I'm saying. We're going to touch on that, and I think actually our first our first slide that we're going to talk about here kind of leads into that because the conversation. Let me just put this up here first, and then we'll read the headline here. 7 civil rights groups want a meeting with Joe Biden. The agenda: appointing black officials in top roles, not lower-ranking ones. Mike Davis, let's go to you first.
Well, first of all, in this interview that we just seen, Kamala Harris did step up and say, give them time. They haven't made half the picks yet, so things can change. So, I mean, if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, I think you have room to do so. But I'm more in the camp of, why isn't he on the phone? Why isn't he calling the people that helped get him elected? I think he had a wonderful opportunity. I think Joe Biden actually made a really good point when he said that he didn't want to pull senators that he actually needed to stay where they are. That makes perfect sense. Well, why you ain't called Stacey Abrams? That doesn't make sense.
Julia, Jessie?
Well, I'm going to put Stacey Abrams to the side for a minute because I don't think she needs to be a cabinet pick because I think that they are grooming her for something very special later down the line. So I don't know necessarily what she's going to do, but I think that Stacey is definitely being groomed for something to come in the next coming years. But in terms of the cabinet pick, Black folks have always had to continue to push our own agenda. And, just because Joe Biden has, a Black vice president-elect doesn't mean that Black folks are just going to have a seat at the table. And so I'm encouraged and I'm inspired that we do have Vice President-elect Kamala Harris as a representative for the Black community. But I'm also, I'm also kind of feeling a little daunted because the NAACP and all of these other great Black organizations are really having to push and continue to push the Black agenda. But I don't think that's necessarily something that we didn't already kind of have in mind. And so I'm going to patiently wait to see who the remaining picks are for the cabinet. And I'm optimistic that there will be more Black people, not just people of color. So we'll see. I mean, they keep talking about this is going to be the most diverse cabinet in all of American history. And so I do believe that to be so. But I think, more so than just Black people, we're also going to see individuals from the LGBT community. We're going to see more women. and the people of color, how we like to throw that in there. So I think it's good. I mean, it's good, but we're gonna have to keep applying pressure for sure.
Man, you sound like you working with politicians or something out there. You're treading lightly with that answer, Julia. I mean, me personally, like Claiborne down in South Carolina, who's personally, if there was one person responsible, you know what I'm saying? At least early on, as other people emerged, like Stacey Abrams, but one person, Congressman Claiborne down in South Carolina, who saved Biden's whole thing. Biden was in the trash before he got to South Carolina. It was a wrap, man. And then Claiborne, man, you know what I'm saying? He had to he pressed the button down there. All the black folks showed out. Momentum turned for Joe Biden, and now he's here. And Claiborne, he was saying the same thing. So it's not even like NAACP and all that, is kind of detached, right? Because, these
Right.
organizations over here. The dude that really got you in office is like, man, hold up, because you need to put some black people on this cabinet. And he made a recommendation for two really important cabinet positions, DSHS and agriculture, South Carolina. The South, look how a lot of people, out here in Seattle, we don't really associate black people with agriculture and farming because we don't see it. But down South, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely have to.
Exactly. So he's made two recommendations. There are people who aren't in Congress. You know what I'm saying? That Joe Biden doesn't have to snatch off the Capitol to be able to put in some of these positions. The other thing I would say though too is I'll be wary of Biden selecting somebody black just because they black, because we know as well that having somebody black who's there, they'll also happily oversee the decline of black people.
Perfect.
Exactly. So just because you black,
Right.
don't necessarily make it that you're going to be competent with it. But I think that like when people are telling us that we should be patient and quiet, I kind of understand
Yeah,
that,
no.
but I don't, because history that's what we've always been. We've always been like, oh, they're gonna look out. So I mean, why not try something new? Why not make noise?
I see what you're saying, but I think for me, I mean, as somebody that's not really a strong Biden supporter, in this whole process, what I did hear from people that supported Biden was always that we can push him. It's going to be our job to push him. And when you look at the interview today, what you heard Biden say was, I'm willing to be pushed. I know that there are people who are going to push me. So if we have people that are already stepping up to push, and we have Joe Biden saying that he's willing to listen to the people around him, and he has the general expectation that the people around him will pull his collar and let him know the things that he's missing, then maybe there is a chance that as these picks continue, we will see more black people get picked. But if not, I will be here to criticize. Know that for sure.
Yeah, but at that point, it's like, what you going to do? Like, the die is cast, I mean, they're already selected.
This is the game that we play.
That's
This is
true.
why
I
I've
mean,
never voted before.
no, Mike, don't.
Man, Mike, hold on, Mike.
He's in, so he gets to do whatever he's gonna do. So
Really back in.
Mike, I want to let you know how you sound, right? And it's all good. You went from the guy who's like, man, I never voted because I didn't trust the political system. I don't trust these politicians. I don't trust this and that, everything else. To now you're like giving total trust. Well, he did say he could be pushed, and it's this and that and everything. What that been?
No.
You ain't sell out the last few weeks, did you?
What I'm saying is, if this the people who roll for Biden, the people that from day one said that this is their guy, this is who they support, this is what they said would happen, was that he would need to get in and he would need to be pushed. What I said was that I never trusted him. I don't trust him any more now than I did before. But if this is the game that people decided to play, he's who got voted for. So, I mean, all we could really do right now is ride it out. We don't have a choice. We never have a choice.
Well, I think right now we need to keep definitely applying pressure for sure. We need to, really, really go hard and not let up off the gas. We need to really accelerate, because Joe Biden is going to fall under that pressure. And please believe that Kamala Harris is going to fall beneath the pressure as well. And we've seen, just with the momentum of the Black Lives Matter movement, we've seen that as much as we apply pressure, as much as we get done. And so I'm hopeful. And I think that we need to keep pushing, and we need to not only just the cabinet picks, right? We're talking about, we need to continue anything that needs to be done, whether we want to push different legislation, if we want to push the stimulus check, if we want to push for jobs, we want to push for affordable housing, whatever it is, the Black agenda needs to be pushed continuously moving forward, right? And I agree with you, Amari. We're at this point, like, why do we have to keep doing
Well,
that?
I mean, the whole breakdown is this dude really published a whole book on the Black agenda called "Lift Every
Yeah.
Voice," and the thing is, we still, what you saying is, Joe Biden made a playbook about what he's supposed to do for Black people, but what I
Mhm.
hear you saying is, we still just got to keep pushing.
We do. We do. I mean, unfortunately, that's where we're at, right? People run on a ticket and they make these promises, and it sounds good, and they shake hands and kiss babies. But we had already had kind of this conversation beforehand to say, okay, he's going to make it in office. He's, the lesser of the evil. I mean, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both weren't either, none of our picks on this screen tonight. And so, in order for us to kind of continue to push that agenda, that what we want to see, the acceleration and the elevation of Black people and Black culture, we're gonna have to keep putting our foot on the pedal for that. And I'm all for it. So let's not get burnt out by cabinet picks. Let's continue to do what we need to do and push hard.
I'll be honest with you. I'm hearing a very conciliatory tone between the two of you tonight on this issue
What?
of cameras. It's all good. I mean, I'm not trying to push nothing that ain't there. I'm just kind of surprised. All right, so I know both of you guys were taking notes during this interview that just aired. So who wanted to come up with the first topic? Matter of fact, I'll throw it over to you, Julia. Ladies first. What were some of your takeaways from this interview?
I want to talk about. There's so many great things to talk about. I think the first thing I want to talk about that I think is fresh on my mind is the stimulus check. So I do want to get to the money. I'm definitely feeling confident about Joe Biden's willingness to kind of push forward with the stimulus check and negotiations, and he's talking about increasing the funding there. And so I'm looking forward to that. I think that we do need more bailouts for small businesses and just people that are unemployed. I mean, I know a lot of people that are suffering even right now. I mean, there's a couple people in my office that are getting COVID again, and they're out of work. And a couple of my friends who are tested positive are like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I only have 2 weeks of paid leave, or, this, that, and the third. And a lot of people don't want to go to work anymore because of the COVID. So with that being said, I do think that we need to continue to push the negotiations for the stimulus. I'm excited to see that Joe Biden is really pushing that forward. We talked about the first 100 days. He's really going to implement the use of masks. I mean, I am just so shocked and surprised to see how many people walk around without a mask. A mask is there to protect yourself from other people, and it's just such a selfish choice that you walk around without a face covering. So I'm really glad to hear that will be pushed. I hope that's pushed on a national level, and it's enforced in states that have a no mask policy, like Georgia, where you can walk around without a mask. So I'm hoping that we put some of the pressure there and really get a handle on the COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, Mike. So running about to Julia's first point here, it's all about the money. What was your thoughts about what Biden said regarding stimulus?
I think he said a lot of good stuff. I think a lot of it we will see as time goes on what can actually happen. I think there's 900 billion on the table right now. It'll be interesting to see how that gets broken down. One thing about Joe that always jumps out to me though is his stance is like it's always on middle class, it's always on business owners, but there are people in this country who are not in the middle class. There's people in this country that do not own businesses. So hopefully some of that money will actually filter to like boost those unemployment checks that people will still need. Hopefully we'll get like an actual stimulus check to actual citizens, because there are people out here that just need money. What's going to happen to the people right now who can't pay their rent? There's so many more people that are not middle class, that are not business owners, that literally need help right now. And I hope that some of that focus could also come to them. I think that some other things that they talked about was also the mask mandate. And I think Trump he was so anti-science that we really did have states that were really just allowed to just not have people wear masks. That 100 days of wearing masks can actually be huge. So hopefully he's really able to push that forward and make that happen. Some things that I did not hear was the law and order. I definitely wish that they would have jumped into that, let us know what we're doing there. I wish they would have talked about the student loans. There's been a lot of talk
yeah.
in those first 100 days. People said that he might make a mandate, the 50K forgiveness. I really would like to know what's going to happen with that. And another big one is also, is he going to shut down the whole entire economy? And it kind of sounded like he was on both sides, where he was like, if it's necessary, that might happen. But if we can really follow the science, and if he can find the funding to get vaccination and to improve infrastructure, that there may not be a need to shut down in that way. And if we're talking about helping small businesses, when we're like giving money so that they can actually have their business through a shutdown, see, that's a whole different story. Because if we're giving the owner money and we're giving the employees money so they can still take care of themselves during the shutdown, then I think that that's something very important. I also think the schools is important, and whether to open elementary schools or leave them shut. And I think it was Kamala Harris that actually spoke to that. And she said that she would listen to both the public health officials and the teachers unions to try to come together, because there were common goals. And I mean, just hearing them talk about working together, I know that sometimes people don't want to work with the other side, but I mean, we finally have adults in the White House again, people that are actually willing to work with people and do what makes sense for the public. And that that is refreshing to hear.
Right.
Did you hear that, Omari?
Well, yeah, this is okay. So, first of all, you listed like 7 good questions that we didn't hear there. You know what I'm saying? We gotta have to replace Jake Tapper with you next time.
I know,
because I know you
go
go
about the student loans. That's definitely something I wanted to hear about.
Yeah. What else didn't you hear about, Julia?
Well, I can't think about what I didn't hear. I do want to make a comment about what Mike said. That is super important, is returning back to school. And I think they did speak a lot about, getting kids to go back to school, and what the comfort level was going to be there, in addition to infusing money and making sure that we can have students go back to school safely. And I think it really needs to not only have a conversation with school officials and faculty and administrators and education leadership, but we need to get the parents involved, right? And I think we also need to have conversations with students. I don't think it's time yet. I think this virus still is running rampant, and kids are they're our most precious and valuable resource, and I think that we need to protect them at all costs. And I just don't think it's completely necessary to get them back into school when it's not safe, particularly if we don't have a handle on things and a handle on the vaccines. And so I think it's refreshing to see the camaraderie between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and that they're really working with the right people to make these kind of decisions. But I'd like to definitely get more involvement from parents and students alike, who actually have to drop their kids off, and the students who have to show up.
Right. I'll say this. What was interesting that I did see there that's very different is that Kamala Harris is, I mean, they really almost sat there as equals, even though it's a different position, president and vice president. And you never saw that with President Trump and Pence. Pence was always very subservient, you know what I'm saying? It was never like a banter between Trump and Pence. It's always like, yeah, you're here.
With Barack and Joe, it was a bromance, but it definitely wasn't two equals sitting next to each other.
It wasn't this. It definitely wasn't this.
All right, we seeing something that we haven't seen before.
Can I say one more thing real fast though about education? Because I know that their focus was on elementary school, and I understand focusing on elementary school students primarily. I mean, even from the standpoint of the parents have to actually help them, so you can't have working parents with elementary school students. It's a whole different dynamic. Yeah. But I'm pretty tapped in with a lot of high schoolers, and there's a lot of high schoolers right now that just aren't going to school. So as long as we leave these high schoolers remote, and I don't have all these answers, but I know that there's a lot of school districts right now that are looking at things as equity issues, things like, should we force kids to turn on their cameras or not? And I do understand how that can be an issue of equity, but at the same time, we have kids that are using this to just not go to school, to tune out all the way. And we have to figure something out to help these young Black kids stay in school, especially these high school age kids, because these are the kids that are either going to go left or they're going to go right. They're either going to get their life together and progress and be adults, or that they can fall off. So we really need to push our kids, and we need some more infrastructure and support for these high schoolers right now.
All right. And before we move on to the next slide here, anything else about Biden, the cabinet, or the interview you saw tonight?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the conversation about climate change. And Kamala Harris really stuck her neck out and said, the time is now, and it's not today, it was yesterday. And so I'm really looking forward to some progressive movement in terms of climate change, because we are we're past due for it. And I really like the conversations that they're having with leadership, and how President-elect Joe Biden kind of talked about how all of these things kind of coincide with each other. And so I'm hopeful that we'll make some aggressive steps towards climate change.
All right. Mike, anything?
I hope that that's all true as well. And one other thing that was also mentioned is the potential for all of this to create jobs. And I just hope that these jobs are accessible to a lot more people than just the most highly educated, but hopefully it could trickle down to everyone. Kamala Harris also mentioned like having really strong union jobs be involved, and those really they can be impactful. We just have to make sure that we keep all communities in mind when those things are being created.
All right, sounds good. Moving on. I asked Trey Holiday this question this morning on the Morning Update show, but before I brought up the same slide, had the same slide on the Morning Update show. I asked her the same question I'm going to ask you guys. Why didn't he say this before the election? Obama suggests slogans like defund the police are counterproductive. Mike Davis.
Well, I think first and foremost, he's selling a book right now. So before the election, this book wasn't written in for sale. Like, let's not forget, this is a book tour. It's a cash grab. I would also say that this is just Obama being Obama. I think the issue that I really have with this statement is, why say anything at all? You don't even have to talk. You don't have to do this. But when you really look back at Obama, who he is, the stances that he's had, from when his message to Colin Kaepernick was, what do you think your messaging is doing to military families? Or when he told the NBA players that they should break their strike and go play basketball. Or when he said he had no sympathy for the people in Ferguson who were looting stores. Or when he called the protesters in Baltimore thugs. Or when the whole fiasco with the video of him taking a sip of water in front of that community of Black people in Flint that didn't help. This is who Barack Obama is. This is who he always was. He's one of those Black dudes that thinks that you can talk about race relations in America without offending white people. That is impossible to do. And if you're going to sit here and try to talk about race and not offend white people, you might as well just keep your mouth shut, because nothing that you're going to say is ever going to be effective. But I'm not surprised that this is his stance, because this is who he is and this is who he's always been.
Woof, the smoke's in the air.
Oh, right. You said it. Listen, I'm mindful about being too critical of President Obama, former President Obama, just because I feel like there's such a true legacy there, and I don't want to.
What's the legacy?
The legacy is that he is the first African American man to take the presidential office.
And I would give it right back to you. I would propose that was the biggest legacy of his administration to Black people. Like, that's something he definitely gave Black people, that vision, this Black man in the White House and everything else. So I'll give it that. I'm just curious what the rest of the legacy was.
But that's a huge piece, right? Because we turn a corner, and so I don't want to tarnish that. But now that he's not the president, I think these comments are completely out of touch with where we stand right now in the Black community. And at the end of the day, Barack Obama is a rich man. He's a one percenter. And when you get into that 1% category, you're not Black, you're not white, you're not yellow, you're not green, you're just rich and you're wealthy and you're privileged. And to have conversations about, like, I don't think we should, I don't, this, we shouldn't call it defunding the police. Well, what should we call it? It's not defunding the police, isn't some kind of like trending topic. Like, this is something that the culture, I identified and brought to the forefront, and it boiled over, and this is what we have now. And it's just such an out of touch kind of statement to make, particularly for somebody who grew up in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's out of touch. It's out of touch.
Well, what I said this morning on the morning show was that he has the biggest platform in the world. More people are paying attention to him right now than than Trump, than everything else. A lot of people are tuned out. He's got this huge platform. Why not use that opportunity to educate? Why not be like, hey, let's dig a little deeper into this thing here of defund, where in one city they might call defund, in Milwaukee they call it refund the community. The whole point is he could have sat there and educated the American public to say, you know what, defund is definitely, it's a gradient. Because in some cities, defund really is, we just want to abolish the police. In other cities, the people who are saying defund and the police are seeing eye to eye, because the community is like, hey, let us take care of mental health calls. Let us take care of non-emergency calls. And there's police forces where they're like, hey, man, that's a great idea. Even here in Seattle, putting the investment into Health One. So when someone has a mental health call, it's the fire, the EMTs and a social worker show up. In some cities, that's what's considered around this conversation of defund. And what President Obama missed the boat on is he had an opportunity to all, especially the white people out there who don't understand and they just hear defund, to educate the American people as to this is what the streets are saying. This is what defund means, and put it all the way out there. And then he can make his decision on where he comes in on the gray area. Well, I'm definitely not an abolitionist, but I'm definitely not this and that. And I feel that community says X, Y, and Z, because he's really missing that in a lot of cities, police departments are already, they're calling it reimagining, but they're already doing it. And so he could have really broken it down for the American people. Instead, he went that route. And bring up what you said, Mike Davis, is that AOC clapped back. AOC pushes back on Obama. Defund the police critique. The whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. Back to what you were saying previously, Mike Davis.
Well, to respond to what you said, I think it's interesting because it really hits on one of my beliefs of Barack Obama, which is that Barack never was willing to lecture white people. He was always willing to lecture Black people. He would always see something that some Black person or communities of Black people did, and then he would step in and, give his almighty looking down on us type of perspective. But he never, ever, you've never heard him do any heavy criticism of white people. And that, I think, is the point right here. Like, you're saying that he could have talked about defunding, and that would have required him to have a conversation with white America. An honest conversation with white America about white America. And that's something that we've never seen Barack do in the last 12 years. So I don't expect it from him now.
I agree. I mean, and to bring back Mike's point, he is selling a book and he has to think about his consumer base, right? Black people are
Throw
not
us under the bus, huh?
Well, we're not subscribing to BS, right? And I think, again, it's where the rubber meets the road. And I think that the culture is dispelling and, getting rid of anything that comes with that BS. And it's just like, that don't make no sense. If it's not for us, then if it's not about us, then we just moving on and that's it. And we're really taking ownership and leadership of our power and what we stand on. And I think, I'm proud to see people like the AOC push back and clap back. You know what I'm saying? And she's saying everything that we really feel. And she's super in touch with the people. She is in touch with what is happening on a grassroots level, and Barack Obama is not. And to your point, he did miss. He missed the band on this, or missed the wagon, whatever it is. He really missed an opportunity to educate. I think one thing that I've seen here in DC about defunding the police, and I think also in New York City, is that people are wanting to put together like an executive board of people to have an oversight committee over how the police operates. Um, Duh. I mean, that makes more sense. It puts the people back in control and doesn't just have this kind of like blue gang, because I mean it is, right. A lot of the police officers are like a gang. I mean, even here in DC, they got a police unit called the jump outs, and they will literally pull up in an unmarked car and jump out, and everybody get on the ground. So, and you don't have to be doing anything but be standing there and being black. They're not running up Northwest in Georgia Avenue and all of that doing that. They're doing it right here in Southeast, in the areas where they're predominantly African American. So I'm not shocked, to Mike's point, but I am disappointed. And hopefully we don't let up, because he is Barack Obama, right?
Well, the thing is when you get to that position, a lot of what comes out your mouth is well curated. Clearly, I'm not curated at the moment, but it was clearly curated and crafted. And so I'm wondering, is he signaling to the rest of America and the Democratic Party and the people on the streets? Is this a signal? And where he's signaling, is he doing Joe Biden's heavy lifting? Because Joe Biden can't come out and say all that right now. So is he doing the heavy lifting of the Democratic Party right now? And forgetting that it's this message right here that actually drove people to the polls. I mean, so it's crazy, because it was the energy of this summer, and whether you call it defund, whether you call it refund the community, man, whether you call it just being sick and tired, it mobilized so many people all over America, and people showed out. You get Biden elected, and then you got Obama doing Biden's work, saying like, yeah, I think, what I'm saying, like, none of this stuff is by accident, is how I say it. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but this is high level signaling, man.
Absolutely. I mean, Amari, you know this. You are one of the first people that ever created influencers, and really show how people can be influenced by what they read, what they see, and really gauge how someone is going to react to that particular content. And so you're definitely right. I mean, this is high level signaling, and we better not ignore the signals. Do I think it is Barack Obama doing Joe Biden's heavy lifting? Maybe, maybe not. But Joe Biden did say, Barack Obama did say in that interview that we need to be careful about how progressive we are. And when he said that, I was like, what? We need to be careful about how progressive we are. That's who voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, is progressives. And at this point, I don't think we need to dumb it down to make people feel comfortable. What I admire, and this is a weird word to say, what I admire about the Trumpsters and really the conservative party that went in and followed underneath Trump, they was a gang, and they went in no holds barred, and really didn't give no F's about what happened, right? And they were not trying to make anybody feel comfortable. They were trying to make it happen. And I'm about that action.
And that's why Trump, though, they came in with an aggressive agenda. And that's why it's like putting Trump to the side for a moment. But that's why they got so much more judges put on the bench than anybody ever. More this, more that, repealed. I mean, the thing is that Trump came in, basically, if there was a flip side of the AOCs and the progressive, they were just a conservative version of that. They came in, they undid every regulation they didn't like, they put all the judges in it. I mean, they were very progressive in that sense in achieving their goals. And it's kind of like what you hear the Democrats saying is like, well, hey, this and that. But man, the Republicans came in 4 years, especially if you're a Republican, you can look back and be like, man, we accomplished so much because they did. And because they came in with that mentality, and you know what I'm saying, which is it's kind of counter to what we're hearing the Biden camp talk about right now. You know what I'm saying? They're not coming. I don't sense the aggressiveness. And for real change like that, man, I mean, the Republicans came in aggressive. We're going to get our judges in. We're going to undo this regulation. Absolutely. We're going to get our taxes. And we don't care what nobody say, whose feelings we hurt, whoever we alienate, we're going to make change. So now Trump be out of office. There's so many things that he did that's in office is going to continue to benefit the right for years to come.
There you go. And that question was asked in the CNN interview tonight, was that what type of change are we going to see? Like, what actual change are we going to see? And I'm interested to see if they're going to come out swinging or if they're going to go soft. And it's go hard or go home. I mean, one thing that we can say about the legacy that Donald Trump will have left behind is that he came in there like no one we've ever seen. And I don't think we'll ever see a president. It's not that I respect his leadership style, because there's a lot of things that I don't like about it and that I could heavily criticize. But there are some things that I feel, because he is a non-traditional politician, that worked in our favor or in the favor of that party to get things done.
Well, a business person is really looking at, I mean, a lot of these people who've been in public service and all that their whole life, they're not looking at something like a business person. I'm a business person, man. I'm like, man, we need to get to what's the bottom line, what's the profit and loss, who we need to cut, who we need to hire, how we going to move forward. And you know what I'm saying? People who have been, lifelong politicians don't think like that. You get what I'm saying? And that might explain that aggressive approach that came into the White House. Like, look, man, we got this much time. We got to get this, and this done.
I think they also responded a little bit to the optics. I mean, we had 8 years of Barack. We had 8 years of a black president. Oh, you talk about his legacy, and you're saying that like the biggest thing of his legacy was that he was a black president. Well, I think that's really what made so many people in this country flip the opposite way. So then they got Trump, and he's super conservative, and he comes in and he does all of these things. And I think that now people are looking at Joe Biden like, well, are you going to come in swinging? Or are you going to come in this aggressive? But I think that what you really have to understand is that Joe Biden is moderate. He's not a progressive. So he's not going to come in with this super, super strong progressive agenda. I don't even expect him to put a bunch of progressives on his cabinet. They were asked specifically, are there going to be more progressives in your cabinet? They stumbled. Like
he said he's meeting with the NAACP on Tuesday, and he hopes they push him. It's like,
when you look at the Democratic Party itself, it's split. Like you have the progressives in the party, but they don't have the presidency.
But why? The thing is this: Biden could at least have a wish list, and I bring that up because Trump had his list of judges well before, went to the most conservative. See, here's the thing is, Trump went to the most conservative organization on the right and had them put together a wish list of, well, man, if you're president, who are some of the judges that you would put on the Supreme Court? You know what I'm saying? He had his list. They can't even tell you a list as far as progressives go, just a wish list. Even to be able to say, even to throw out a name of somebody in the Senate. Well, so-and-so, this and that. He'd definitely be on the list, but he's in the Senate right now, so we don't know about that. And then there's also he ain't even giving you no list. He's telling the NAACP, you push me to tell me, what you been doing all this time? You been out here, fam? You supposed to have some kind of little list you can pull up and be like, man, these are the people. I haven't talked to some of these guys yet because we're still doing whatever. But these are the type of people that we'd love to see on the cabinet. Like, man, they're not even attempting to sell to the public that they're interested in dealing with any progressives.
He doesn't want it. That's not what he wants. It's not who he is. There's no need for him to even do so. Once he's in office, he's in office. I just look, man, this is y'all's guy. This is y'all's guy. This ain't my guy. This is y'all's guy doing what he's gonna do. I'm just hoping that he gets us through this pandemic, man. I'm tired of being in this house.
Yeah, listen, I'm still, like I said, I'm still heavily optimistic. we don't know who the cabinet picks are going to be yet. I agree with you, Amari, that what have you been doing? But at the same time, we already knew this coming into this election. When we went in and casted that ballot for Joe Biden, we did it because there wasn't anybody else on the ticket, right? And with that being said, we have to continue to push our own agenda. I mean, the work is not done; the work is just getting started. And so, someone in the comment is saying Trump is a puppet. I think all presidents are puppets, honestly. I mean, they are going to be influenced by everything, and they have to basically take all of these influences and put it all together as one. And so, Joe Biden is such a nice guy. He's gonna play it soft. I don't think he's gonna come in there and be very aggressive at all. I think, he's had 40 years of being a public servant. We're not gonna see him change overnight.
Joe Biden also doesn't like to piss off the right. Like, there's something about him that's always jumped out at me. Like, he doesn't want to say anything that's going to offend the other side, whereas Trump didn't give a damn about the other side, the other nothing. Biden doesn't want to make those people mad. Biden wants to play nice. So it's going to be really hard for him to push anything progressive while he's still trying to play nice with the Republicans.
Well, we'll see what happens, but they're gonna have a problem. I put this back up here. I mean, because it's two dueling ideologies here in the party. One is like defund, it's counterproductive.
Absolutely.
The slogan should be whatever. It's something people should understand. And AOC, the whole point of protesting is to make people uncomfortable. And goes to your point, Mike, is that in that uncomfortableness, sometimes that's when people are open to listen.
Absolutely. And to your point, the Republicans only got three things that they really got to fight for. The Democratic Party is such a big umbrella that it does create factions within it. And having those factions is always going to make it hard to push through anything that you want to get through.
That's true. But, maybe we are moving away from just this two-party system, and this is the time where that divide is happening. I mean, there's a lot of people who are not. I think that Joe Biden he's old school. He's very balanced. He's trying to find, the silver lining of everything. And sometimes there just is not enough time to find the silver lining to make everyone happy. But hopefully he's not scared to make any mistakes, but that he's going to go in there and actually try to be aggressive or progressive and make some stuff shake. I mean, that's what we need. That's what we want. And that's what we've elected him to do. And so I'm looking for his leadership style to be influenced by Kamala Harris, who is very much a progressive. I hope that she doesn't, side with Joe Biden because he's the president, but I hope that she continues to push even when no one else is listening.
So somebody, hold on, I'll keep you up there for a second. Let me find this comment.
Okay.
It says, "We're not moving from two party in this record setting polls." Udo Runihura. Sorry if I didn't get the last name right, Udo.
Runihura.
But the thing is, right, is so many people really what the Democratic Party has always been, like you said, is that big tent. All these people hopped on board to get rid of Trump. Absolutely. That's why they voted. It's a lot of people that I really think that if it wasn't Trump per se and all, you just never know how things will play out. But it's Absolutely. A lot of people who came. It's a lot of people, at least here in Seattle, I talked to, who detest Biden. 100%. They detest Biden and Harris. They voted for Biden. They were like, yeah, man, I absolutely don't like this guy, don't like anything. So I wouldn't say that just because, I guess, 80 million people showed up for Biden, that those are people that necessarily support the Democratic Party and its ideology. A lot of these are people who just wanted to remove President Trump from office. So I would say that there is some space out there for a third party. I don't know if it would happen, how soon, how fast, it gain traction and everything else, but it's a lot of people who are just kind of fed up.
Listen, 4 years from now, we are going to see what the temperature really is. Right now, we are living through a pandemic, a crisis that's happening globally. And with that comes sacrifices that need to be made. And I think we would have seen a different election had there not been the coronavirus playing out. and so many people dying and so much uncertainty around the economy, around health, around just everything. And so because of that, I think there is a veil of fear around that, in addition to Trump's leadership style, right? And so I think a lot of these things played a factor over the last 4 years. um, Media, mainstream media has a huge influence on how people vote, and what they know and what they understand, the way that they pitch different stories. And so when we consume that information, it helps us to kind of generate an idea of what that's going to be. So I'm in 4 years, hopefully, God willing, we'll all still be here and we can really see what the temperature of America truly is.
Can you imagine how long Mike Davis's dreads will be in 4 years?
How big my afro will be.
Look, well, mine is still gonna look the
We got
same.
lace fronts now.
Speaking of Trump, his leadership style, and COVID, Trump posted a 46-minute video to Facebook asserting baseless election fraud claims and called it the most important speech I've ever made. And I believe he mentioned COVID like maybe once in 46 minutes here. Man, a lot of people were saying, a lot of people who got on the fence before, they just felt that he just totally just blew it with COVID. I think that cost him quite a lot of voters, was the way that the administration handled COVID. And even today they said they're having holiday parties there at the White House. Somebody's throwing a party over there that's got 900 guests on the list or whatever. But I mean, one is there's a few things here to unpack. First things first, Julia, Jessie, is Donald Trump going to physically leave the White House?
Him in his diaper. Yeah, he'll leave. Donald Trump is going to leave. He's. I think what he's doing is he's just burning everything down on his way out, right? He is one of those type of people that, I mean, Donald Trump is showing out in true Donald Trump style, just how he did on mainstream media. This is not new. He is a toddler in a sense, and not even, he's like the toddler with like the most everything. So I think he'll definitely leave. I do think he will show up to the inauguration. I don't know. I think he's going to leave with no issues for sure. He's already said that. Will he show up to the inauguration? I have my bets that he will. The interesting.
Well, I'm sorry, Julie. Let me jump in here real quick, because right now, I mean, if you talk to this guy, he's saying like, listen, man, I mean, hey, we got action in Georgia. He said they got action in Wisconsin. The Supreme Court refused to hear this case. He said he got action in Nevada. They're trying to overturn this and that. He's basically mad at at Barr, because Barr said like, yo, there was no cheating. I mean, it's a mess over there right now. So I mean, he's a long ways from like, and then he said, by the way, he said that if Biden can prove or verify those 80 million votes, then he would agree. Is what he also said as well.
He doesn't believe himself, Amari. We know for a fact he is the king of marketing. And you brought up signaling. He knows for a fact that if he continues to say something over and over and over again, and the media is picking it up and presenting it as a story, to even say Donald Trump is stupid. Why does he keep talking about election fraud? It's not happening. He's going to the courts and the judges are saying absolutely BS. It's not happening. Doesn't make any sense. You don't have a basis. If he keeps talking about it, people are going to believe it. That's just it. That's just fact. That is the way information rolls nowadays. So I don't even think he believes it. I think he's just pandering at this point. And he's burning the house down.
Mike Davis is old saying that if you tell a big enough lie long enough, then people start to believe it.
Yeah, I think he believes it. To be honest, like I really do. Like I think that he believes that there's no way that he could have lost this election. And I will also say that if the pandemic didn't happen, I think he would have won the election.
I
There's a lot of
agree.
things that he did bad. There's a lot of repeals that he made, a lot of like deregulation and this and that. But one thing that we do know is that the stock market was healthy, and had the pandemic not have happened, I think there would have been a lot of people who
Yeah.
probably would have voted for him. And
America was balling.
exactly. And I think that the reason why we saw so many votes was because of the pandemic, because of the summer of protests, because you got so many people that are spending so much more time in their house glued to the TV, that there's so many more people that were politically active now who probably just would have been going about their regular daily lives before. So all of these things contributed to him ultimately losing. But I think he's going to stay there to the bitter end. I think he means that. I think that, like, when it comes to white supremacy, he's the mascot and he will always be. That will be his legacy. And I definitely think that he's going to ride this out. They're going to have to remove him. You heard Joe Biden say that the Republicans that called to congratulate him all had to do so in secrecy. Like, people are still afraid to, like, step up and say things against them. But I do think
So
that, oh, go ahead.
no, no, no. I'm sorry.
I think that AG Barr's recent statements are really going to hurt his causes tremendously. I think that that's probably like one of the final nails in the coffin. I think the chickens have come home to roost, but I don't see him just leaving amicably. I think there's going to have to be some measure of something to actually get him out.
Right. So I wanted to bring this up here, right? And I think it was this show, or it might have been the Morning Update show. It says, even if you never ever listen to Trump, there are hundreds and hundreds of legal statements alleging fraud. Watch the legislative sessions. So, and then we got some other here. So, votes fraud, everything else. And now on a lot of shows, people just dismiss that, right? They're like, oh, this and that. But the thing is, you got to think 80 million people to 76 million people, or whatever the count is right now, however it breaks down. There's a lot of people, and so it's important. Even if you don't agree, it's important that we have an understanding of what people are saying. You know what I'm saying? And I dug deep into this Dominion software, dug deep into what I'm saying, how these votes are tallied, and dug deep into a lot of shit because. One thing we could say about our small network here is just like, we're long format, so we don't have to just move off of sound bites. And because I wanted to understand, because even if you look at our state, although clearly the population is here in these three counties, King County, Seattle, Tacoma, Everett, but Washington has like 39 counties or something like that, and the majority of them are all red. If you look on the map, that tells us that our neighbors and our neighboring counties, have a different viewpoint and different ideology. And right here in the state of Washington, people are saying like, hey, well, there's fraud, there's this, there's that. The reason why I don't just dismiss the people, I might dismiss what's coming out of Washington, D.C., but I don't dismiss it locally because these are the people in our community. I'd be trying to understand, like, oh, okay, well, man, how's this breakdown or whatever, and this and that. Some of these things, I mean, he's got a lot of cases thrown out of court. His attorney general has said that there wasn't fraud. That the head there of the for Homeland Security, I'm forgetting his name right now, it's Krebs, I think. He said that, the safest or most secure election ever. But we need to remember that there's tens of millions of people who feel that this election was rigged. And I don't know how do we get past that? So does Biden disregard them? Because, he, like you guys said, he's the one who wants to bring people together. He wants to heal people and all that. How does Biden go about addressing tens of millions of people who are really not going to see him as a legitimate president?
Well, right now, I think he's doing the right thing in that perspective because you don't see him engaging. You don't see him saying that Trump needs to leave. I mean, like he does his little jabs here and there, but like he's not just overtly saying, Trump, you lost, get out. Like he's not. He's playing it slow. He's waiting the whole time when he wasn't getting his mail and he wasn't getting the secrets and the election committee wouldn't talk to him. Biden never got upset. He never made any demands. He's just allowing the process to play itself out. And I think that will help him in the long run because it makes it so that those people may not vilify him in particular. But as far as what he will get up and say to those people, I don't know if there's anything that you really can say to those people because there are people that believe in their heart of hearts that this election was stolen. And I mean, you can change the way that people may act, but it's really, really hard to change what people believe. And if people believe that, that's just what they're going to believe. And it's going to be an uphill battle for Biden in that regard.
Yeah, and that's I'll pass it to you real quick, Julia. But that's why I don't disregard. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
I
the
don't either.
conversation that I have on a local level is different than listening to Trump or whatever on in these briefings. I really try to. I don't disregard this conversation here on the local level because
No,
these are our
I
neighbors.
talk to people
You
too,
know.
and that's why I'm so convinced that Trump might have won. I know people who always talk about Trump just through the lens of the stock market and how even through pandemic and we lost our jobs, the stock market took that hit in March and then it bounced back with a vengeance. Anybody that's watching this show right now, myself included, you got money in the stock markets. We've been making money these past couple of weeks, so I do understand that Trump has a following and there are people that want him to win. Those people exist. He got more votes than any sitting president in American history. So people came out in droves to also vote for him.
Julia, Jesse.
I think it's interesting that we come to this almost every single president election. I mean, this is when Donald Trump won. Democrats said that that he didn't win, and there was this whole thing about recounting and blah blah blah. But uh, Clinton, she went and conceded to the race. I think that the question was asked is what should Joe Biden do? Joe Biden should do nothing because at this point, America is already segregated. I mean, we see that through through the votes alone, and that it's totally separated 50-50 almost. But imagine what America would be if we just all of a sudden said, okay, the person who was already crowned president is now no longer president because we found fraud. Like no one would trust the system moving forward. So it's not in the and this is, I mean, because it kind of treads conspiracy, right? But it would be so much chaos and so much mayhem and so much disruption that our government would never allow. And I'm not saying this is right or wrong. They would never allow for us to say that the democratic system is not operating. It's just not going to happen. So we might as well just move on and keep it moving. I can't.
Speaking of
We
speaking of
can hear you
keeping it
more.
moving here,
Okay.
real interesting comment here. In the future, the Republican Party's best chance is to win a majority in the Northeast. In 2024, trends indicate Connecticut, New Jersey, and Rhode Island will no longer be safe Democratic states. They will likely to lean states. I think in 2024, 2028, the Republicans should start to invest resources in this region to flip those three states red. It's good to see people who are watching our show are thinking well in advance on strategy over here, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
That's
listen,
what I'm talking
we are not. I think the three of us don't. We don't vote party. We vote policy. So I don't care if it goes red or blue or green or yellow or whatever. I don't really care. I think I'm looking for leadership that actually makes change. My investment, I want to see large investment into the Black community because we are 150 years behind. And I would like to see some progression in that way. And I don't care who the president is in order to do that there. So again, I'm rooting for policy. So however the trends turn, I think it's excellent that we have so many viewers that are just who are Democrats and Republicans. And so I love, we're not going to get anywhere as a society if we don't
if we
have,
just talk to ourselves, yeah.
yeah, we need to have balance. Like I have a lot of Republican friends. So I have a lot of conservative values as well, but I'm also someone who is very progressive in towards and making things happen. So we'll see.
You know what's interesting on that. Now we'll go around the horn here for the final word. Is that Black people in America have traditionally been conservative people. You know what I'm saying? Look at our big mamas and our great grandmamas and things like that. These are very conservative values, conservative types of people. It's just something interesting to keep in mind. All right, so final question here. I'll throw it out to both of you guys, and we'll start with Mike Davis first. Putting COVID to the side, which we can't, but putting COVID to the side, what is the one thing that you want to see the Biden administration achieve in the first 100 days?
Come up with actual policy, some actual legislation, something tangible that will address the wealth gap in our country. The wealth of Black families in this country is trending towards literally being zero. So give us something in that regard to actually show us what you're going to do, not for BIPOC, not for POs, for Black Americans. What are you going to do to address the wealth gap?
All right. Julia, Jessie?
I want to see more policy and legislation around criminal justice reform. I want to see a lot more people returning home from prisons who have been improperly sentenced and harshly sentenced. So I'm really looking to see some reform around that. In addition to, I want to see some type of ownership and leadership around student loans. And a lot of the younger generation, these kids coming out of high school, don't want to go to college because they don't want to be in student loan debt. And I don't think that we need to have that kind of angst for kids who are coming out of high school who say, I don't want to get any more education because I don't have a way to pay for it and I don't want to have student loans. And so I want us to change that 100%.
All right. Mike Davis of the South Seattle Emerald. Julia, Jessie of Converge. I always like you better, Julia.
Yeah, of
Because
course.
this is Converge. You're a close second, Mike. Appreciate you.
Or side by side.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah, we got you down there. Appreciate you guys, and man, hopefully let's get together and do it again, because clearly things are going to intensify as we get closer to the inauguration. Appreciate you. God bless.
Y'all have a good night.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support.